Oh my God. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome. I'm Russ Kane, what's left of him. This is The Daily Show. You're tuned into Men's Radio Station. It's Wednesday, the, 18th of January. How can that be? 1 minute it's Christmas, now it's the 18th of January. How does that work out? I don't know. It's a miracle. How you doing? Everything all right? Freezing yesterday. Freezing. Yesterday, I was at the mercy of London Transport. I don't know what it's called these days. I'm just going to call it London Transport. I waited for the bus, missed 2 buses. I'm a man of the people, Wolfie Smith. And wait for the 2 buses, bugger off. Oh, great. Bus eventually arrives, get to the station, Jubilee line, trashed. Station looks like the end of Miss Saigon. There's so many people trying to, just huge. Then you hear the announcement, don't wait for the train. You won't get on the next 3 tracks. Crap. Go back. I end up where I started. I'm now later and later and later for my appointment. And I take 2 buses. God, they're slow. Holy God, they're slow. And the thing I couldn't help noticing, boy, a few people could, eat a salad occasionally. All I'm saying, no more. I also had the bus driver from hell, one of them was brilliant. And one of them, when he shut the door on me, and I just looked and went, really? Because, and then if he liked the look, when someone bangs on the side of the bus to let them in, you've done that, right? They bang on the side of the bus to let them in, right? If he liked the look of them, he'd let them in. If he didn't like the look of you, he wouldn't let you in. What a dick. You know him. Talking of dicks, ladies and gentlemen, you know him. You love him. Let's see what his hair's like today. Let's go through the square window with Neil Long.
I honestly don't know how I can live up to an introduction like that. You think that's funny, don't you? You actually think that's funny. Very good.
I'm dying here. I am dying here. Let's say hello to people all over the world. This is one of my whiskey and cigar buddies, and he's in the United States, and I had the pleasure of meeting him and his daughter. They were great. Clark Gilbert. Hi, Clark. How fabulous to see you.
Afternoon, Clark.
Part of the state. He's somewhere quite kind of rare. Is it Minneapolis? I might be completely wrong. Hello to Liz Saul, who lives in London. Let's go to Texas, Houston in Texas. Hi, guys. I'm off to... Oh, that's so weird. Now, this says, hi, guys. I'm off to San Antonio to see the Alamo. That's the real one, not the cinema. So my son phones, because he lives in Texas. He lives in Austin. And he said, I took everybody to see the Alamo. I went, you're not fooling me with that one again. I know it's the local cinema. He went, no, the real Alamo. So he went to see the Alamo there. From Texas and Houston, we go to the northeastern United States with Asa Don Brown.
Hello, Asa Don Brown.
Barry J. Allen, who lives in there we go. Clark Gilbert, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Is that Michigan? Am I? We don't know as well as everybody else. Good afternoon, everyone. She says like Stanley. Goodly after. Hated Stanley. Did you find Stanley Unwin amusing, Neil? Too young.
I'm afraid I don't know who it is.
You're missing sod all. And interesting, Liz Saul. I don't know if you knew this, Neil. She lives in New Malden.
That's uncanny. So do I.
That's unbloody believable. Let's go to our special guest. No more Mr. Nice Guy, ladies and gentlemen. Rowan Andrews. Hi, Rowan.
Good afternoon, Rowan.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Good to be here. Good to meet you.
Thank you. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I love the title.
It's not my title.
About what I think it's about. I'm going to be. This is going to be right up my street.
Good. I didn't originate the title. Just to be clear, it's the title of a book by an American psychotherapist called Dr.
And a
Robert
song by Alice Cooper.
Song by Alice Cooper. Absolutely.
A couple of songs as well. It was not. Well, actually, there was another book. Anyway, the one I'm interested in is Dr. Glover's book, and that book has made a pretty big impact on the lives of many,
So can I guess what I think this is about? And tell me if I'm right. Is this about men being overly nice and overly kind of, because we want to be good people, nice people, we come across as overly nice, which is not
Ooh.
particularly attractive to the opposite sex or to what we want in life.
God, I hope you're right. Otherwise, you've judged yourself. Oh, whole boy, I'm going to get a JCB and drag you out.
Am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Thank
and it's
you.
what Dr. Glover would call people pleasing.
Oh,
So attempting to please the other in order to seek and acquire.
Why do we
their
do that,
validation.
Rowan? Why do we try and
it's a good
please
question.
everybody? It's a waste of time.
We want to be loved.
But you can't
We
be
want
loved.
to be loved, and we.
Let me bounce this off you. I've said it many times, but it was seriously fantastic advice. Somebody said, I said, he said, do you want everybody to like you? I said, yeah. Is it important? Well, yeah. And he said, and this changed my life. He said, so when you get on the Northern Line at 8:30 and the carriage is packed, do you want everyone in the carriage to like you? I went, no, of course not. He goes, there you go. Changed my life. True.
Well,
it's such a simple analogy, but it was true.
Yes, but you understand the point that, many of us are going out looking for acceptance, looking to be accepted, which is another way of saying being loved, being
or approved of,
basically not rejected. We don't want to be rejected. That would be the worst possible thing.
Why have we got ourselves into such a state? And
because I think it's still in our DNA where if you got rejected from the tribe, you died. And I think that's still in us a bit, maybe.
Well, it certainly is on social media. The point I was going to make is on social media, people are so desperate to belong to, I'm going to say, a clan or a group, and Neil's word, a tribe. Why? It's ridiculous. Who cares?
Well, if you think about what that's really about, that everybody has a kind of longing for happiness and love being a form of happiness. If I am loved, if I feel love, then I will be happy. Or if I'm safe. And safe, and so if I'm safe, then I'll be happy. If I've made a load of money, then I'll be happy. If I acquire this thing or that thing, this relationship or that object, then I will be happy. So
I agree. So it comes down to acquiring what we think we require, but in doing that, we actually sacrifice the very thing we want because we're going about it, albeit innocently, the wrong way. Correct?
Yes, because we're placing our happiness out there in the world, but really it's on the inside, and it's actually already there. It's innate in our being. We just need to find it, but we're so preoccupied with this belief in our separation.
Yes.
How do you mean separation? Separation from each other and from the world, the universe, and forgetting that actually our true nature is that we are all one and the same, all part of the same being, the same consciousness.
I didn't feel that on the buses yesterday. I've got to tell you, it's interesting. You made a really interesting point with this. Is that we're looking for happiness from the outside, and the most important thing is it's going to come from the inside. And you can get to a state, if I get that new Rolex, if I get the new Porsche 911 Turbo S, it'll make me happy. It won't.
No.
It won't. It's nice, but it's nice. It's not a terrible thing, but you got to say, I like this because I enjoy it. But it's not going to fundamentally change you.
No, but it does give us some kind of temporary respite, some kind of temporary joy and happiness.
It does, but isn't that a trap? Isn't that what they call the hedonic treadmill?
Ooh.
So we adapt to that. So you get the new car, it's fun, or the new girlfriend, or whatever, and it's fun for about a month, and then the same core issue comes up. So we think
you get a warranty on both,
again, or change the girlfriend again, and we sort of fall into that trap. But again, it's putting it outside of ourselves rather than, I suppose, loving ourselves and appreciating.
You get like a 5 years or 100,000 mile warranty. Does it work?
Not in my day, unless there's new deals on the market, Russ. No, apparently they don't come with that.
If you have the girlfriend regularly serviced at an authorized dealer, Does the warranty get extended?
This is a bit like going back to your reference.
The Benny Hill show.
Wilfie Smith. I mean, does anybody remember Wilfie Smith?
Wolfie Smith.
Yeah, powerful people.
Free the tooting back
I'm old
one.
enough, but I don't know if anyone else is.
Oh, our gang, all around the world will remember Citizen Smith.
Yeah.
So I want to know
ahead
the
of its
solution
time.
for this nice guy syndrome, because I've done that. I've been too nice in business and therefore let people walk all over me.
Yeah.
I've been too nice in my personal life and occasionally let people walk all over me. I've recently learned the hard way about boundaries, and I had to put a boundary in with someone which I never thought I would have to. Thought I would have to. Pardon? Ken? No, no, not at all. Quite the opposite. But I did,
because Rowan. He's the nicest guy in the world.
Because I think if we're completely lost in one of these traps, I think the first step is just to get enough space to get an awareness of what's going on, and then decide to make the move. When you're being, tossed around in a million directions by the wants of everyone else because you've said yes all your life, I think the first thing is space and awareness, and then learning how to move on. But I'd rather hear it. I'd rather hear it from you and how you did it. And are you a reformed people pleaser, may I ask?
I would say
Good
so.
question.
I probably fall into that from time to time, but it's I don't feel the pain of it anymore. I don't feel any kind of consequence, painful consequence from any kind of behavior in my life these days.
How did you get there, and what do you do?
I was going to ask, what's your background?
Well, my background is I'm a coach. So I coach individual men. So
I get that. No, I get that. Before
I'm a
before you
business
decided
coach
to be a
prior
coach.
to that. I was
You're
a
business coach.
Business coach. I had a business before that in communications and public relations and so on, and all of that kind of stuff. So, but I love.
Don't dismiss
helping
it. That was
men.
my livelihood. Are you kidding? I loved all that.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
absolutely. Well, it was, after a while, it became a bit tedious helping big corporates to sort of manufacture news that made them look good.
Did you get? Oh, this is such an.
But we're going down a different track now.
Rowan.
I want to
This
come
is
back
such
to
an interesting point.
I want to come back to Neil's
Did
point.
you? I know you do, but in good time, young man. In good time.
I'll stick your website on the screen.
I would feel. See, I used to feel, but let's have no false modesty. I knew I was a good writer and a good corporate communicator. All right. Otherwise, people wouldn't have employed me all those years, job after job after job.
Yeah.
But there were times, and you've touched on something, you've reminded me of something that I've forgotten. You thinking, I'm bringing my communicative talent to this company. I really don't like the people in this company, because we were just hired guns, right? We'd ride into Dodge, do the job, ride off into the sunset. That was it. They'd never see us again. We wouldn't see them. But some of these people, and I'd forgotten that. I thought, I really don't like you. You treat your staff like shit. I'm not mad about your products anyway, but I'm going to make you look great. And it was a bit of an internal thing, but then I thought, sod it.
But in a sense, you're still
take the
people
money.
pleasing. Yeah, in a sense, you're people pleasing.
Well, we're not
because
living
you're
our
the
truth.
fine.
No, I wasn't. No, I have
But
to
we're
be.
not
You'd
living
have
our
to be
truth.
You'd have to be professionally polite and very professional.
Of course, but,
Yes, but
I was on a call last night with someone who was telling me, who, like all of us here, has got a very good CV. And there was one point when he was doing another form of personal development work, he'd start attracting, if that's the right word, the wrong clients. So he tweaked it and chose the clients he wanted to work with. And I think a lot of us don't know that we've got that choice anymore in business, any more than we do in our personal lives, that we can say, no, I don't want that, I want this, and then seek to go for what you do want. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Right.
I think so. Well, the problem is understanding what we actually want and what our needs are. You know, a lot of guys don't really know what they really want and how to actually satisfy that.
They don't know what
We
they
have
want,
to-
and they don't know how to get it. And if they did think it was available, they wouldn't know how to choose it. They wouldn't know that they could choose it. They wouldn't know it was a choice.
Is it okay? Is it okay to choose this? Is it okay to be myself? You know, is it?
Yeah.
Do I have permission? We don't tend to operate like that. But let me come back to the question that you asked at the beginning. A few minutes
what
ago.
did you do to get there? And how
What
did
did
it
you
all
do to
start?
get there? The first point is awareness, as you say, is to recognize the pain that I am in by continuing this behavior, by, you know, every time I notice myself saying yes when really I want to say no, and recognizing how painful it is to do that, that's the first step. Now that means I'm going to have to feel something, right? I'm going to have to feel the discomfort of recognizing that I am doing something that I don't really want to be doing. Does that make sense? And then dealing with, and then dealing with and processing whatever sensation, whatever feelings, whatever emotions come up as a result of that, bringing that awareness to those kinds of behaviors, and you know, healing those. And once we can actually develop the capacity to be with the discomfort of those emotions and sensations,
like the mindfulness we were talking about the other day, turning towards it.
Turning towards it. Exactly. What we tend to do is when we feel uncomfortable, emotionally uncomfortable, it's like, shit, turn the other way, get away from it. And you know,
have a drink,
smoke a joint, watch porn, go, you know, into gaming or whatever it is.
Sounds like a hell of a party.
Or work.
But if you notice yourself, you know, look at where we are all addicted. You know, you were talking about people on the bus, they should eat a salad. People are addicted to food. That's one of the ways that we numb out from the emotions and difficult feelings that
there seems to be a really common theme.
They're addicted to grazing. They're addicted to grazing, is what.
But if you think about why, you know, we want to eat to consume. We want to stuff down unpleasant, uncomfortable feelings. And that's why
and a constant theme that's been coming up for me recently in my personal life and on all the shows that we've been doing is this turning towards it. Be aware of it, and then you can heal it, and that puts the ball essentially back in your court, puts your health in the best possible hands, your own, rather than needing someone else. Yes, sure, we can hire consultants. Yes, of course, we can go and see doctors. But the relationship we've got is almost a dependency relationship. Sometimes in our relationships, personal, professional, and we want to be interdependent to each other, so function harmoniously as a society. And and certainly not rugged individualist. It's all down to me and sod everyone else. But that dependency relationship isn't healthy either. In my opinion, this is about becoming more authentically you, more of yourself, who you are, expressing that in the world, and giving yourself permission to do that. Getting to know yourself. Who are you? What makes you tick? And when you're completely authentic, that's when people seem to glow. And it doesn't matter
so many people, Neil. The problem with that is we are so many people. That's the problem.
What we individually are so many people. What do you mean by that?
No. Each of us are so many people because we wear so many hats and sometimes wear so many faces. And then you get lost in what is it? Who am I? Who am I really? Because to this person, with that business relationship or that personal relationship or that familial relationship, I'm that. And I'm quite different to somebody else. So we have to accept that we're not just the one. It doesn't mean that I've got multiple personalities, but there's so many different facets to.
I would say that's something we've learned. I would say that's something that we've learned, that we've been.
Tell us more about that, because I'll be interested in your thoughts on that, Rowan.
Yeah. So if you consider that in order to navigate life and the difficulties of life, we are taught to be a certain way. So, you know, you should please people, for example. You know, you should do as your mother tells you, for example, or, you know, don't upset your father, don't upset this person or that person. So we kind of, hence the masks get created, conditioned into our way of being, if you like. So that but the process of shedding them all, consider that that's not who we really are. All of those masks that you describe, Russ, they're not who we essentially are underneath all of that. But once we start pulling those off, they fall away. They fall once we start.
Who are we really?
I don't really, Rowan. I got to say, I'm not sure I concur with that. Azadon Brown in Northeastern United States saying addiction is the vehicle that drives us away from our baggage. Oh, I get that. Good.
Actually, I'm going to bring this one full circle. I do concur. Okay. But let's take an example of me being a dad. I'm a dad to my my daughter, who I absolutely cherish. And that is a role that I play. And it is a role that I happily choose and happily play.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change who I really, and I'm at core, and I would argue the more I'm full of my true authentic self, the better dad I would be. Insert anything here, the better DJ I would be, the better presenter I would be. Because when you're being authentic, you totally rock yourself, and your relationships presumably would improve when there's more of you coming to the table.
This is the comment of the day. This is coming in from Grand Rapids in the United States, from Clark. I know who I am, but don't really like who I am.
Okay, well,
so that is just, and I bet all over the world, people watching and listening to this are going, "Yep."
Yeah, and isn't that a tragedy? Isn't
I
that
think
a
it's a
tragedy?
fact. I think it's a fact of life, Rowan. I think it's a fact of life.
Let me throw this question out.
Why do we have to like it? You see, this great thing. This is such a key point. Thank you, Clark, for being so open about it.
I want to break that down in a minute.
We're always told, especially by the Catholic, you got to love yourself, and you got to. But what happens if you don't? You just don't like yourself. What happens?
I think there was a mistaken. I think there was a mistaken belief.
Like yourself.
I think we are mistaken in who we think we are. You know, we
if
are,
we all knew
going back
that
to
we
my
were
point
amazing.
Going back to my point about our conditioning and all these layers that we put on, we're basically taught that in order to navigate life, you have to develop your mind and the strategy, and you know, in order to navigate life, you need a strategy. So I come across men in my men's groups who have been to the strategists that they find, the men's strategists that they find online about how to date women, for example. And it's all about a plan and a strategy and a mental kind of approach. And it is crap. It's awful. It's rubbish. It doesn't work.
Of course it doesn't work.
I get men turning up to my groups who say, well, I've done all of that stuff. I've had sex with loads of women, but I want a relationship. I actually want
totally different things. The two are not the same, and people and men and women both agree. Men and women both agree on that thing. Having sex with someone, having a relationship with, they're not the same thing. Let's be grown up about it. This is really interesting because while we were listening to that, Julie Voice, who's in Houston, Texas, says, "I agree with Clark Gilbert." So Clark said, "I know who I am, but I don't really like who I am." And then Julie says, "Absolutely agree." Now I've met Clark. What a lovely guy.
Let me come back to that. So when you say, I don't like who I am, or I know who I am, and I don't like who I am, who is it that you're actually referring to when you say I?
Ourselves.
Who is that?
Well,
who
Rowan,
is that self, though?
Rowan, we look in the mirror.
Other than a thought, show me.
Well, we know it's a thought. We know it's a thought. But
okay, well, our thoughts
are very
true?
Powerful.
Are they true? Are they the truth?
Well, I hate to say like Meghan Malarkey, but they're our truth. You know, there's the truth, the real truth.
And are we seeing through someone else's eyes? Are we seeing?
Well, maybe
what
yes.
we think other people want us to be?
We're using a filter. We're using a filter of the various things that. Yes, Liz, I know. Don't be too hard on yourself. I get that, but it's very hard not to be.
But I'm saying that belief in who we think we are, that is nothing other than a thought and set of thoughts that constitute a belief, and it's not actually the truth.
Yeah, belief systems, BS.
Yeah, and you know, belief systems can fall apart very quickly. It's like
I've seen it done. But the reason why this has really hooked me is because I attend a personal development call twice a week online with a fantastic coach. I'd love to get him on here at some point. His name is Nick Bro. He does a lot in the metaphysics, law of attraction world. And I see people on Zoom and StreamYard have breakthroughs. I've seen it on my screen. And I've had a few myself. And it just comes from asking the right questions. And he talks an awful lot about belief systems. And when people realize who they truly are, behind all the conditioning, behind all the belief systems, and that they have some sort of volition and choice in there, then, and if you knew yourself to be, I'll throw this question out to anyone listening or to any of you guys, if you knew that at core you were an amazing, wonderful, flawless, perfect being in your own way, what would there be possibly to dislike? The rest of it is just conditioning. The rest of it is just details, is just baggage. And that's when we get into addictions. That's when we turn away from these difficult feelings and, I don't know, pick your favorite addiction and go down that route rather than working on ourselves because we don't believe we can. We don't believe we can choose, and we don't know what to choose.
Yeah, exactly. And I run a men's group as well with, and it's, you know, there are men going through transformational change online on our men's group. It's a meetup group. It's on Meetup called No More Mr. Nice Guy UK. And, you know, we have face-to-face meetings, we have weekend workshops and so on, you know, and I'm working with guys like, there are senior guys, surgeons. There's a surgeon, you know, all this stuff has an impact in the world. Right, all the stuff I'm talking about. I was talking to a surgeon in my group the other day, and he, you know, his nature is to want to, you know, do as he's told, or do the you know, please people in his work. And I think that the people in the NHS,
quite important in his line of work, I would say.
It's incredibly important. But then, because there's not enough money in the NHS, they're being put upon to do things that they shouldn't really be doing for a surgeon. We want them doing the surgery job, right? The most valuable part, the most skillful part of the job. But
that's why we're there and they're there.
Exactly, but they're getting asked to do all sorts of other things that the system is no longer funding other people to do, and that's
like for instance,
and therefore it plays on the nature. Well, writing prescriptions, for example, or whatever it is, it's not the core work of a, you know, a prime surgeon. We want them doing prime surgery, the best things that they are highly skilled at doing and highly trained to do. Not the you know, I used to be a management consultant, business coach, so you know, businesses are looking for that all of the time. Where is the high value stuff? Let's get the high value people doing the high value work, and the lower value people, cheaper resources doing the cheaper value work, lower value work. That's a kind of obvious thing in business, but we don't seem to be. So all of these sorts of ways of being and people pleasing and so on is playing out and creating a mess as it happens in the world. And I think we have to start waking up to this and realize it's the dysfunction of it that's actually impacting not just us as individuals, but the whole world.
I agree.
And it plays
Russ,
out.
You don't seem convinced, Russ. What's your thoughts on this, bud?
It's not a question of not being convinced at all. It's a question of there is so much to unpack, and I'm still working on Clark Gilbert's comment coming in from Grand Rapids. I'm far too selfish, and
have you considered, Clark?
It's really interesting. I wonder what constitutes excuse me, I wonder what constitutes selfishness.
Because it could be, Clark, that you're not selfish at all. It could be that you're self-caring. Because I always
it's totally different, isn't it?
I absolutely bang this into people's heads every time I'm on this show. You cannot give from an empty cup unless you're truly full yourself. Right. And in the light of this conversation, I would add authentic and true to who you are. You haven't got anything to give anyone anyway. So taking care of yourself is not selfish. And I would also ask, who called you selfish? Is that something that someone?
No, I think that Clark is. I've only met Clark once when he was visiting London. He was on a kind of European tour thing. He was with his daughter. Emma Webb says many therapists suggest being your own cheerleader. Yeah, it's not always easy. Tell me about it, Em. It's not. People pleasing has consequences. Yeah, and then Liz. Says everyone has to be a bit selfish. You need to look after yourself first.
Let me give an example. Let's give a practical example on this. On the selfish thing. Could it be through someone else's eyes? Could it be that sometime somewhere in your past someone said you are so selfish, you know, and it kind of stuck with you? We do know, it's proven now that beliefs, even beliefs you take on as a child, can, when we haven't got that critical mind up to the age of about 7, things can go straight in the subconscious or unconscious mind. And until it's examined and brought up to the light, which is kind of what we're half doing now with these conversations, they will continue to play out until you realize, like you say, Rowan, awareness. Then you can begin to dismantle the belief systems, or the BS, as I like to call it. But what is selfish? Putting yourself first? Is that entirely selfish? Would it be entirely selfish to put myself first in some situations? No. Would it be stupid to put myself first in other situations? Yes. It depends on the situation. I once lent someone a car. Right, we had 2 cars in the family. We didn't need 2 at the time, and I lent them a car for 2 months. And then I said, I need the car back, and I was called selfish for that. Is that selfish?
Yeah,
selfish for lending someone a car.
You see,
it's only
this is the
someone's
thing.
value judgment, isn't it?
Every time
What's
you do
the reality to that?
every time you do a favor,
Exactly.
it comes and it
Someone
punches
else's
you.
value judgment.
Why
and
does
that's
it
my point.
punch you in the face? And it's you do somebody a favor, you get punched in the face. The car thing, typical example. Out of the goodness of presumably you're not charging whoever it was. Have the car. I must have the car back. You've had it 2 months, matey. Oh, you're selfish. You get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then it's how we deal with
Exactly.
that. The first thing is you don't need that person.
Well, I told them they were being
It's fun.
ridiculous and walked away and then got the car back.
What did you do?
But isn't it easy?
I told them they were being ridiculous and should probably drink less before they open their mouth.
Well, was it the drink? Well, if it was the drink talking, sorry. Clark says, I do get called selfish a lot by someone close to me. I can't.
That doesn't make it true, Clark. That does not make it true.
Not necessarily.
No. And a problem I see a lot of, Russ and Neil, is that men come to me wanting to improve their relationship. They want to find a relationship. They want to, fix a relationship that's going bad. So men are putting so much store in relationship, as if that's the only and most important thing in life. But that's how it kind of occurs to people. That's how important relationship appears to be. And it comes back to my point about this seeking happiness in the acquisition of objects and relationships out there in the world. That seems to be the only way that I can truly feel happy is if I have a woman or person who's going to stay with me and be with me for the rest of my life.
But that puts an awful lot of pressure on the person that you've chosen to be that number one person.
So the problem is,
eventually that will ultimately fail, in my opinion, because
it does.
That means you need that. Well, it can't be any other way because we're evolving beings, and that person, you're basically saying, I need you to freeze in time. I need you to never change. It'd be like me saying to my daughter, now she's 28, I want you to behave like you were when you were 5, and she'd quite rightly say, well, Dad, I've grown since then. No, I can only be happy if you're the 5-year-old that I knew.
Well, let it go. Letting go. But it's a. You know what? And I'm going to say this because one of the kids was messaging me today. Was a problem at work, and 1 minute you're putting Germaline on their knees because they're falling off their tricycle. The next minute they got a complicated work issue. There we go.
Now you're putting Germaline
that's
on
life.
emotion.
But you still, And I gave some advice, and then I said, being a grown up sucks. It's nice being a kid. But it's true. You want to give them decent advice as well. You want to give them good advice, but again, that's playing different roles, isn't it? Playing different. Tell me something. When the people come to you and they've got
I wouldn't say it's a different role, Russ.
No, it is being a dad. I'm different as a dad as I am here.
Yeah, but it's not a role. It's just who you are.
Kind of, but I wouldn't behave on air as I do with some other people.
And I would throw in that if your cup runneth over and you are full and feeling great about yourself, I would wager the advice you would give would be a lot better than if you were given it from a place of emptiness or, oh my God, do I have to do this again, resentment.
Indeed. But you were going on to say something.
On my way to fix the wife breakfast. That's not selfish. So somewhere in Grand Rapids, in the US of A, someone's going to get a nice breakfast.
Well, I think that's an interesting point as well, because once we start to actually put our attention out there in the world, rather than focusing on all of our problems and so on, there's great joy, great happiness in actually being of service to people, to other people, to the world, rather than being wrapped up in our own, oh, I must be selfish, I'm a selfish person, and being kind of self-obsessed in that way. We put our attention out there in the world, and so it's lovely to hear.
Do you ever
be led
say,
by your dreams
Rowan,
rather than being held back by your problems?
Rowan, when people come to you, and you got a lot of clients, obviously, do you ever say to them, "I'm really sorry, but this situation, doesn't matter what it is, just isn't fixable. Best if you walk away." Does that ever happen?
No, because there isn't such a thing. But there is sometimes the energy of
such a thing as what?
There's no such thing as an unfixable problem.
Well, there is. I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
No, I can't agree
It's
with
not
that.
true. It's not true. Well, if you think about the kinds of problems that men are going to come to me with, people are going to come to me with, there's nothing unfixable about them.
Could you give us an example?
Yeah, well,
you could. Let me just jump in. Let me just jump in for 1 sec. I get what you're saying, but there might be fallout from other people. It might be a business situation. I don't know. I'm picking an example. There might be a business situation, and somebody comes to you, X, Y, and Z. They lay out their list of concerns, and you go, if you continue down this path, it ain't going to work out. So that person might say, right, and the other people, the fallout from that might be quite severe. So yeah, it's fixable, but at a cost. Is that right?
Well, it depends how you judge a cost. You know, what is a cost? Is it cost, or is it, it's fixable, but maybe it's not a cost? There's just a whole world of judgment.
Give us an example.
Well, other people are going to get upset, aren't they?
It's a little abstract at the moment.
Okay.
Put some meat on the bone for it.
All right. Yes. So if I actually speak up my truth, right, and start saying no instead of yes, I'm going to upset people. Okay.
Correct.
Yes. Correct. That's a fixable problem. So if I upset someone, well, imagine the reason that we don't say no is because we're going to upset someone. And that's the whole problem. We go through life avoiding upsetting anyone. Now, it's okay for people to get upset. Have you ever upset someone, particularly like your family? Have we ever done anything that's upset? Yeah, we've all done something that upset someone and survived it. So
yeah, didn't particularly mean to.
Survived, but Rowan, we've
survived
it. We've survived it, but at a cost to ourselves.
Yes,
but what's the greater cost?
If we start
saying no and facing a bit of unpleasantness, or saying yes all your life and never, ever, ever being your authentic self, which is the greater cost?
Exactly. You know, to actually go through upsetting someone and actually be able to be there in their upset and hold them in their upset. By hold, I don't mean that physically necessarily, but to allow them to be upset and to deal with whatever their upset might be about. You know, that it will dissipate.
And I do find that a lot of people get upset because they've got expectations on you again, for what they think you should be,
endlessly,
rather than perhaps what your authentic self is calling you to be. There's only one person in the world who has my 100%. I will let you. I can't think of the word. Draw from me at anytime you need to, no matter what, and that's my daughter. Everyone else, sorry, Russ, it's Ashley. But with other people, there are boundaries, and those boundaries I think are healthy, because again, sorry to say it again, you can't give from an empty cup.
Yeah, I think boundaries for kids are extremely important.
Boundaries are the most important thing,
and adults
They
too.
need to know what the boundaries are.
Your kids are not your friends; they're your children.
It's a developmental thing. But it comes back, Neil, to the issue that I was talking about relationships. That we're going out there seeking a relationship, seeking a person to fill a need in ourselves, and as soon as that person doesn't live up to that perceived role, then it's a mess. We feel hurt and wounded.
But that comes from the expectation we're putting on them. It was nothing they did, probably.
So we need to become aware of the kinds of projections that we're putting on each other in order to transcend the dysfunctions that they tend to throw up in relationships, which is why marriages end. 50% of marriages, something like that, end in divorce. Relationships are we're conditioned to think that a relationship ought to be forever. But it rarely is. It rarely is. And if it is, it tends to be pretty dysfunctional or limited in some way. I don't think we should be looking at relationship in those narrow terms anymore, because the reality is so different to.
How would you define relationship in the new model, shall we say?
Well, I would encourage people to go and have relationships. And even if they do end up becoming dysfunctional, you don't have to be stuck in that. You can let each other go, love each other, but you don't have to be, in a romantic relationship in order to love someone and let them go.
I can love some
go
people
on
much
with
better
life.
at a distance. I can love some people much
Exactly.
better as I'm thinking of people in my past now as a friend from a distance than in an intimate relationship with them. That just seemed to overcomplicate it for me. I can play the role, if you like, of friend very, very well, and I do with people in my past because it's all resolved and sort of thing. But I could never go back to how that relationship was because it simply didn't work. It'd be like trying to put a square peg back in a round hole.
Yeah.
What?
Maybe that's why the relationship didn't work.
Oh, Russ, please.
Oh,
I can only apologise, viewers.
Come on,
Thank
Neil.
you.
Life's so bloody short. Who cares?
I can only apologise.
Life's
Russ.
too short. Stop it. Now, Rowan.
Yeah.
Rowan, here's the thing. How do we... Let's get down to some nitty-gritty, shall we? And I'm finding this conversation really, really good. By the way, Asa in northeastern United States is saying he's not making breakfast. Have you noticed? He's not making breakfast. Selfish bastard you are. Absolutely. Boundaries are necessary for all relationships. Here. It's about expressing our desires, needs, and requirements as an individual.
And there's nothing
He's
wrong
so
with that.
smart. I've been begging him for 2 years now to come on the show, and he's so shy.
Yeah,
Can I
on the
throw a
show,
spanner
man.
in the works on that
He
one?
won't come on. Rowan,
Can I throw a spanner in the works?
let's deal with something very, very specific.
Desire. I'd like to come back to desire in a moment.
Okay,
Let me come back to desire.
Let's stick with this just for a second.
I'll ask you about desire in a minute.
And it's a theme which comes up again and again and again on the Daily Show and on Men's radio station. The ability to say no. No, I don't want to go to that party. No, I don't want to do that job. No, I don't want to go out with you. No, I don't want to lend you money. No, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be 1,000,000,001 things. How do you, as a personal development coach, begin to train people and give them the ability to just say no?
Yeah. Well, I had a very real example of this just very recently of a man who had a relationship with a woman. I'm not sure if it was a romantic relationship. I can't remember, but a woman who he was close with who told him that he should go and visit her in another part of Europe. And he felt compelled to say yes, that he ought to say yes, because she would, be more enamored towards him, let's say. But what he wanted to do was to say no, and he felt so incredibly uncomfortable about this desire to say no, because the risk to him of saying no would be that she would in some way think badly of him or reject him, not love him. So it comes back to recognizing this desire to find love and fulfillment and completion, happiness, let's say, in the outside world, and the fact that we project that on other people, objects and things. And once we start to recognize that, we can heal the reasons that are behind that. The need for security and safety when we were young, of course, that we've all got examples of when we weren't taken care of in our anxieties and stresses and so on, and those insecurities started to get conditioned into us, but they become dysfunctional in our later life as adults. So this guy,
it might have been necessary at the time. If someone
might have been absolutely
childhood, it might have been
necessary.
the best. I think a good way of putting it is people do the best with the knowledge and information they have at the time. But you don't want to get stuck in the past. Use it, but don't. Tell the story, but don't be the story.
The strategy we had then for surviving life is now, we've outgrown it. It's now not compatible with our adult life. So that's when difficulties tend to show up, when we're still using that kind of survival strategy in our adult relationships. But for just to go back to my example, so the coaching for this guy was to, first of all, to get very, very aware of exactly what sensations and thoughts arose in him in that moment when he was being asked to do something. So he needed to become ultra aware of the discomfort in his body of and recognizing his desire to say yes at that moment when he really wanted to say no. Now, once he started to actually experience those sensations and recognize the thoughts as thoughts, not as truth, because, you know, we tend to have thoughts and believe them and think this is who we are. And that, right? So if we separate all of that stuff and get good at that and recognize that these sensations are just sensations, and we are, you know, we are able to deal with them, we're able to cope with them, we're able to sit through them without creating any story about them. Once we do that, they start to dissipate. They literally dissolve in the awareness that we bring to them.
How did it work out for this guy?
Well, he keeps coming back and saying, that was really good advice, thank you. I don't know exactly what happened.
Did he travel to Europe to see this woman or no?
I don't know what happened in that exact precise example.
But to me, you used a
but
key
it was a
word
general. That was one example where it had happened in his life recently, and we were using that to actually help him in future situations.
Okay.
So,
exactly. Future pacing, as they say in NLP. You used a key word there when he felt he should.
Yes, exactly.
Or needed to, and some words to watch out, because I don't think our authentic self would ever should do something, ought to do something, or must do something. These terms I read somewhere, and I'm always like this: shoulding, tightening of the oughter is, and must abating, avoid, if you like.
Well,
but
should,
must, and ought are not words which are based on desire. It's very different to what you want to do. And I don't think our authentic self would ever use those words.
Yeah. Why have you got a Madonna quote up, by the way?
Because it ties in with what we were saying.
But it's Madonna.
Yeah. I mean,
she's touring.
We could talk for quite a while about that quote, but that would be another story. But I just wanted to come back to this point about desire, that we tend to assume that we have desires and that our desires are the truth and that they are okay, and that what we should do in life is pursue our desire and acquire our desire. But what I'm saying about that is that our desires are constantly changing. So what's the motivator? What is the motivator behind desire? Desire tends to be, again, an objective thing out there that if I acquire it, if I fulfill the desire, then I will be okay. I will be happy. So I have a desire for a cup of coffee, for example. I'll have that cup of coffee and I'll feel the peace of having fulfilled that desire. And it's the same with, you could argue it's the same as with pornography or with sex or with all sorts of other things. The acquisition.
Be serious.
Sorry?
With a cigar.
With a cigar, indeed. And it's only ever a temporary satisfaction. Another desire
arises.
That's
life. So, but Rowan, that is life.
That is life. But if we want to be happy, rather than seek the satisfaction of every single desire that comes along, we have to go the other way and recognize that actually the peace and happiness that we're seeking out there is already our nature. It's already underneath all of those layers of conditioning. It's underneath those thoughts and beliefs that we have in ourselves. It's already
so in other words,
there.
What you're saying is our baseline, our natural default is happiness, and coming from that place.
Oh no! God damn! Is it?
No.
Yes. Yeah, I am exactly saying
Didn't the
that,
Buddha say there is no way to happiness because happiness is the way? Happiness is the way. We've got it set up be, like it says on the screen. Reverse it, and then you can behave. Well, see what I did there. But so it's being.
The Buddha said all suffering, desire is the source of all suffering.
I would actually, far be it from me to call out a wise worldwide guru, but I actually don't agree with that. I would replace the word craving. Not desire. It's natural to have desire because, like you say, it would only be temporary. So there would always be further desire. That's how we evolve. But it needs balancing with an equal amount of appreciating what we've already got. That makes the journey comfortable. One keeps us happy. One keeps us moving on. They're both needed. No?
I'd go along with Buddha, actually.
Would you?
Suffering comes from the objectification of happiness. Like there's something out there that will make me happy. And the suffering comes in that belief of duality, that there's something out there that is separate from me, that if I acquire it, then I will be whole and complete. I will be at one. And that's where peace and happiness resides. And
that is a kind of
that's
there's a shocking example of this.
That's what they call a hungry ghost in Buddhism, isn't it? I think
it may well be. Look, I'm not
as opposed to Scooby-Doo.
I'll tell you who also coined that was Gabor Mate, who is a fantastic
he is an amazing man,
academic on addiction issues.
Well, Canadian. Russ, if we could get him on the show, he is an incredible man. Gabor Mate.
Set you and Ken on the course. Get him on. Here's the thing. I'm not sure I agree with all of this. It's very, very interesting. There's a lot to break down, a lot to process. But I hate to mention this guy. I really do, because I think he's a jerk of the first order. But he is the worst example of what you're talking about. And I refer to that professional. No, I'll be very careful because it's sub judice. Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate is gigantic, huge, ridiculous, come from nowhere and is absolutely vast. I hate to even give him any publicity. I'm doing it in an adverse way. With his repulsive ostentation, with his car collection, with the clothes, with the watches, with the ghastly women, the whole thing. And it's setting up a generation of young guys to totally fail. Let me finish. They're never going to be him, whether he's real or not, whether he's going to get banged up or not. I've no idea whether it's true or not, whether since Sacha Baron Cohen, this is the greatest creation of a false persona. I have no idea. Yeah. But I would put that to one side. I don't care about any of that. What I do see so very obviously is the reason he's so hugely popular is the three of us would look at it and go, whatever bollocks this is. But young, impressionable guys look at this and go, I want that Bugatti. I want that Lamborghini. I want that Russian girl. I want that 50, 75, 200,000 pound watch. And it's like, whoa, you are being set up here to fail horrendously. That will never make you happy.
I agree. And I would wager that Andrew Tate is not happy inside and he's trying to fill a massive hole inside. And that's essentially what I mean by hungry ghost.
I'll be honest, I don't know. And to be absolutely brutal, I don't care. Because the
Beatles told us that money can't buy you love. So
they did.
It buys you a bit of, it buys you comfort. You can be, at least as my mum used to say, you can be miserable in comfort.
But it doesn't. None of that makes you happy at the end of the day. You know, the Bugattis, the watches,
but you
all
know
that.
The only point about money, Rowan, the only point about money is that you can feel content, not to worry. If you just want money to take over the world and this, that, fine. Well, good luck. You know, it's up to you.
I've no side though. If people achieve what we're positing, or I'm positing, that happiness is our default state, and that nothing, like the Buddha said, in the outer world will make us happy because we already have what we need to be happy.
I disagree with that fundamentally. I don't think happiness is our default state at all. It's something to strive.
Well, then why? No, I don't. Then how far have we fallen from our natural default state?
Well, of course we have.
That's the question
to
ask.
That's why we've got people like Rowan lurking about.
The problem why we think it's not our default state is because we're so wrapped up in the drama of our lives, of our experience, our thoughts, our feelings and sensations, that it's impossible to believe that anything other than that could exist. But it does. Those young men you speak of, Russ, I think come from childhood with no positive male role model. Yes, and that's
absolutely
the case for so many young men. They are if we look at the world, who are the positive role models, masculine role models?
Well, let's try and find some, shall we? And and while we're at it, let me. Oh, damn! I wish I'd have asked you this bloody ages ago. What an idiot I am. There is a huge movement. And it comes from politics and it comes from beliefs, certainly in America. And as I say, when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. unfortunately, that there is a huge movement to demasculate men, to effeminize men. Is that something you're having to deal with?
No, I don't recognise that.
You don't recognise it?
No, I do believe that that there is a lack of polarity between the sexes, between masculine and feminine. There is a lack of that in relationship, and women are increasingly encouraged to go out into the world of work and want to, and that's absolutely fine. They're brilliant at it, by the way, so they should. However, when a woman has to, the world of work for most women, certainly in the corporate sense, is they have to be in their kind of masculine side. We all have masculine and feminine energy, right? And that the kind of planning mode, the directional mode of that masculine kind of, looking forward and driving things forward is a very kind of masculine sort of energy required to do that. So women in the world of work are doing that all day. Then they have to come home and kind of direct things at home and make sure the washing's done and the kids are fed and the homework's being done. It's a recipe for disaster in sex lives. I see this all the time. So then the men are coming home and they're like, they don't know how to, they can't sort of take charge or get into their masculine. There's a kind of neutrality of energy between the two parts.
And we need that polarity. That polarity is what keeps
we need polarity. We've got to create the spark of attraction.
Guys, stop. We have been drummed into our heads, rightly or wrongly, that polarity is absolutely wrong and we should not have it. And if
I don't think
you pursue what you two are saying, and I'm not going to say on which side of the fence I sit for once.
Well, hang on. What is it you say I'm saying? What is it you think I'm saying?
And what do you think I'm saying?
The polarity should exist.
So polarity, when I talk about polarity, I'm talking about energy. An energetic polarity. I'm not talking about women in jobs and the world of work. Equality is absolutely essential, of course. Yes. It's a natural law, if you like, that we should be fair and equal. But it doesn't really bode well in the bedroom if a more feminine person is having to be in their masculine energy all of the time, and a more masculine person.
Yeah, because I'm a heterosexual guy, and I probably wouldn't be very, very attracted to a woman who is in her masculine energy a lot of the time. I like the feminine, and the feminine likes the masculine.
Oh, we're not allowed to say. We're not allowed to say that anymore. You'd be cancelled.
You can't, but you can't have one without the other. We're not going to be a homogenized.
Yeah. Because Neil, what you're doing is saying what actual nature is. But the new narrative is to deny nature, which is why the world's in such a complete mess.
We do that at our peril. And I think that's your point, Rowan.
That is exactly
right?
Exactly. Because nature is actually a dance between masculine and feminine energy.
Of course it is. Yin and yang, sun and moon, male and female.
Aces on brown.
Sockets. You can't have one without the other.
Shiva and Shakti.
Portion number 12. Asa Don Brown says, Rowan, are you familiar with Robert Bly's work, Iron John? It sounds reflective of your work. So that's the last question of the day. Are you?
I am familiar with Robert Bly's work. He's very much into ritual and he wrote Iron John.
I don't like any of that. I'll be honest, I don't like any of that stuff at all. It freaks me out. I think if we've got to the stage where you've got to go into the forest and dance naked round a fire to claim your masculinity, you are in one hell of a mess, boy. That's really
connecting with nature, by the way. Connecting with nature, I absolutely wholeheartedly support.
Yeah.
Whether that's in the forest naked around a fire, or if it's walking in your local park.
Forest, regarding your phone, if you go into forest, there's not very good internet service, but there's a much better connection.
You're so wise. Rowan, thank you. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much, pleasure. Rowan Andrews. No more Mr. Nice Guy. It's been an absolute
Thank you, Rowan. It's been
pleasure.
really lively, interesting debate. Well, not even a debate. I agree with most of you say. Good luck with all your work, sir. Thank you for coming on.
We'll probably come back. We'd love to have you. Lots more to discuss. Bye. I love that. It's interesting. We opened a huge can of worms there, which it's so interesting. It is so interesting. I'm just
Well,
going to
deny
leave
the
this. As,
natural
I'm
order
just
of
going to
things at
leave
your
this
peril.
one thought: how a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the population has managed to grab the entire agenda, and I don't understand how we've let it happen. I don't get it.
And through
That's
conversations
it.
like this, we begin to become more authentic with
Yes, we
ourselves,
do.
and then we won't allow people to do stuff
Neil,
like that anymore.
always seriously, always a pleasure. I know we might
Thank
go
you,
around
Russ.
a lot, but I'm so delighted to be working with you again. It's always
Likewise,
an
likewise. It's a
always an
privilege to
absolute
work
joy.
with one of my old Capital buddies. Always was.
It's great. And I saw Cara yesterday, by the way. Ran into Cara.
How's she doing?
Sensational. She's in town
Brilliant.
just for a few days. That's it. We're out of time. I'll be back on Friday. Neil will be back on Monday.
My producer,
That's
Mr.
it.
E.
And goodbye to Neil's producer, Mr. Ken. Bye, gang.